Learnings from the World Champions. That's what our video is about today. We're going to be discussing South Africa have learned from the World Champions, particularly in after this has been completed, what we can take from this particular win, what we can take of Australia's journey leading into the next World Cup, which will be in Australia. So we're going to be analyzing that. We're going to be chatting about it. We're going to get in deep and we're going to talk about it. It's a little bit of a continuation from our podcast last night, but it all means this is a little bit more to discuss because we never had a chance to really summarize the final, talk about the final, get involved with that, and really get into the nitty-gritties about that. So on this particular episode, that's what we're going to be chatting about. So before we get started, before we get going, don't forget to subscribe to Cricket Fanatics Magazine Monthly. We'll be releasing the new issue tomorrow. So we're really excited about that one. And you can do that by clicking the eye on the top of the screen or in the description. Click on the link over there. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your mailbox every single month. If you're new to this channel and you haven't yet, please click subscribe. Click that notification bell as well for all future videos. We would like you guys to get involved because that's how you can keep us going. Also become a Patreon. The link is also in the description. That will help us take things to the next level. We can increase everything, increase views. There's so many things that we can do. We can spread this channel far and wide, but you guys also have a say in that. So you need to click the share button and smash the like button and comment as well. So help us obviously spread these videos and our YouTube channel to all corners of the world. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's content. Hey guys, welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine, and this is your daily show. I'm your host, Khalid. This is my co-host Aditya, and today we're going to be discussing the learnings that we can take from Australia, particularly the final, and looking at the two finalists. And talking about Australia, let's get straight into that discussion, Aditya, because the way they've turned things around after that ball tampering saga, 4 years turned everything around, really started growing their team and getting that team culture back. We even saw Justin Langer in that test documentary talking about how he wants to rebuild his team. We heard some of the guys after the final talking about it and saying about, I think it was Marcus Stoinis who specifically said, it's like a brotherhood. They all feel like they are brothers and they are having fun first and foremost with each other and playing every single day. It makes them perform at a higher level, at a better level, because they actually care about each other. So I'm trying to listen to that because nobody gave Australia a chance heading into this World Cup. Actually, a lot of people thought that Australia came into this tournament with a worse record than most teams. They did actually. They got thrashed by Bangladesh leading into this particular series. But then you also hear about, I can't remember who said it, but I heard him speak about it after the game as well, where they said they fielded a lot of, you could say, second string players, not their first choice players in games before. And I think that's something that maybe we can follow, so we can actually look at it and see from that what we can learn. And particularly the way Australia has given opportunities to guys and turned some players' careers around. Mitch Marsh is an example. Wade is another example, where players have been given opportunities and people have trusted them and looked at them and said, you know what, we're going to give you a proper shot, and believed in them, and then look how they performed. The same with David Warner, the same with Steve Smith, the same with so many of the guys. They've been trusted. So I think that's been excellent from that part. But Aditya, when you look at the final and you look at Australia, what are some of the main highlights that you can look at? And Ashit, I just want to answer you as well. The reason we changed the time of the show today is because we had prior arrangements for later. Or Atitya has a meeting actually that needs to attend, so I needed to make it a little earlier, and I wanted to go a little longer today. That's why I did the show a little earlier. I like to question things. Go ahead, Aditya.
Um, well, congratulations to Australia. First off, I thought they were clinical yesterday. In the second innings, they didn't give New Zealand a chance. Apart from the first wickets. So I think if there's one thing about Australia, flat out, is that you never underestimate them at ICC tournaments. No matter what sort of form, no matter what sort of form they've had before the tournament, uh, at an ICC tournament they just switch on, and even through the tournament they might look scrappy, but they find a way to win those crunch moments. And in a final, Australia are just a different beast. They just unleash. It's in their DNA. They just unleash that X factor, and they dominate. And if in previous interviews that I've heard, it's a cultural thing, because as young kids, they're trained to enjoy pressure. They're literally told that it's not every day that you make it to a final, you make it to a semi-final. So enjoy that moment. It could be a once in a lifetime opportunity for you, and if you can perform on that stage, then the world is at your feet. That's the sort of that's sort of language I've heard from Australian cricketers, and that's exactly what we saw yesterday. But I think if there's one thing that really stands out to me, it's brave selections from the team management and the selectors, and adaptability from players. Because Mitch Marsh was never supposed to be batting at number three. He started batting at number three 2 series ago in the West Indies. So, and he's been plagued by injury throughout his career. So for him to come in low on confidence and then to really nail down that number three spot is a huge credit to him. An Australian T20 team has never played Mitch Marsh at three. Second is Matthew Wade. Matthew Wade at 6 or 7, playing the role of a finisher. At the beginning of the year against India, Matthew Wade was an opener, and within the space of a year, he's become a finisher. It's not easy for a player to to switch within that space of time, to switch an opening role when you know that you have the opportunity to face 120 balls, or at least 60 balls, to batting at number 6 or number 7, where you know that you may not be able to face more than 15 or 20 balls. I think that's huge, and that's credit to Matthew Wade's tenacity and resilience as a player. And ultimately, I think if anyone's won Australia that World Cup, it's got to be Matthew Wade, because without that 41 of 17 against Pakistan, there was no way that Australia would have made it to the finals. So credit to them. But I think if there's anything that stands out, it's these two selections, because everyone else in the team was nailed down.
So I agree with you, and I think that's the one thing that we can learn from them is to be brave. The 100%, that's what they've done, and they weren't afraid to try new things, like you said. And I think that's something that South Africa actually needs to look at. Sometimes in their thinking they're a little bit rigid. So while we can look at the fact that they moved Temba down the order as brave, but I don't think that's brave at all, because what would have been brave is to move David up higher, either move Quentin maybe down if he's struggling a little bit. That could also have been an option. So there's picking Yanaman Malan was if they didn't take Faf to the World Cup, that was a massive oversight for me personally. I really wanted Yanaman in the side. That was something that I thought that we needed some extra attacking batters in that team. I even suggested, if you're going to take Yanaman, why don't you take him as a finisher? He's a youngster coming through the system. I'm sure that he'll be able to bat in the middle order if he needs to. I don't think that he needs to play. Players need to be fixed to their fixed position, and Wade proved that. Mitchell Marsh proved that. So many batters proved that. Because for me, the most important thing in T20 cricket compared to other formats is the adaptability, the ability to be able to change things up when things aren't going your way. Because you're not always going to get you are not always going to win the toss, so things are not going to be in your favor. You might not always play in conditions that favor you, so you need to change and be adaptable over there. That's why I say South Africa needs to look hard at their selection processes and pick players, core groups of players that are adaptable, because we need players that will be able to play in any conditions, no matter what the conditions. Not have this excuse, oh, but this player can't play in spinning tracks, and this player can't play on seaming tracks, and this player can't face the new ball when it's swinging, or this pacer can't beat the spinners, or this batter can't beat the spinners in the power play. Like, that's a whole lot of nonsense. I think we need to find a way to create the adaptable players in South African cricket. Um, and I think that's something that the Australians have picked, have chosen, have shown us in this whole campaign. I mean, to bounce back after being smacked by England as well, they could have easily gone a little bit down the tubes over there and maybe not gain momentum after they were smacked by England. So it is quite interesting the way they continued to grow throughout the tournament. David Warner as well. All the scrutiny around him, it just proves to you that you shouldn't have a go at David Warner, or doubt him, because he's going to come back and fire. He likes criticism. I think that guy, he feeds off criticism. So that's another aspect. But I want to talk to you if there's maybe any books that you've read recently, or something or articles that you've read recently that speaks about the Australian mindset, because I think that's something that we really need to get deep into. We need to get an understanding of that, because I think that's one area that Australia manages to be consistent in, is having a strong winning mentality.
Yeah, Herschel Gibbs talks about it quite a lot in his book. Uh, but I also remember watching a lot of interviews post the 2015 World Cup. And I think Michael Clark talked about, big match temperament um, and things like that. Um, but I think there are bits and pieces from from so many different sources, right? When Ricky Ponting, for example, at the age of 17, he went to the Australian National Cricket Academy in Adelaide at the time. He he said that Rod Marsh said to him that if you can't score 350 runs in one day in a test match, you need to go and look for something else. So I think that tells you that players are encouraged to be aggressive. But there's one other thing, that when players are aggressive and they play fearlessly, that's also because the team management and the selectors are fearless and aggressive as well. You don't get penalized for failure, and that's equally important. Because if you can't just tell teams that go and play fearlessly, because what happens is that more often than not, players are going to fail as opposed to succeed. So when that happens, the team management and the selectors have to stick with those players and say that, okay, you have the talent to do it. It hasn't clicked today, but it may tomorrow. So that's an important part of playing brave and fearless cricket. But if you talk about big match temperament and so on, I think it's a very cultural thing, and it's something that needs to be ingrained at. Um, it has to be embedded in the psyche of school kids at a young age. That what, pressure is great. You got to go in, you have to go enjoy it. I mean, I remember on Twitter, I was talking to Herschel Gibbs, and he said I loved pressure. What I mean? I think there's nothing more that a player can tell you when he says that I love pressure. So if you look at his World Cup record, you look at Faf du Plessis' record in knockouts. Okay, look at the IPL, for example. Okay, in 2018, qualifier one, Faf du Plessis makes 67 of 42, takes Chennai into the finals, and they win the tournament. He's man of the match. 2019, qualifier two, Faf du Plessis makes 54, takes Chennai to the finals. Chennai lose the finals by 1 run, but he's taken them to the finals. 2020, generally the season didn't go Chennai's way. Fair enough, but he was still the highest run scorer for the team. He made 450 runs in a season. 2021, he's made 600 odd runs in the season. In the final, he plays a match-winning knock, 86 to 59, and he wins Chennai the game. That's big match temperament for you. That's steel, and that tells you that these individuals enjoy pressure. On the other hand, if you look at AB de Villiers, no disrespect to him, we love AB de Villiers, but you look at his record in knockout games, the IPL, compare it to Faf du Plessis or Herschel Gibbs, it's not the same. So pressure does different things to different players, and it's great.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of things that is not to do with only selection, because I don't think it's purely just selection all the time. There's something that is blocked South Africa for quite some time, that's other than selection, that I feel has stopped them from taking the next step. And yes, selection for me in this particular World Cup really let us down. I do feel that there were a lot of players that could have been in the side, that deserve to be in the side, and would have created a environment, or a selection process, or within the team dynamic. It would have been a lot more dynamic. It wouldn't have been so one dimensional, because I felt that the batting lineup particularly was very one dimensional, because our bowlers are quite dimensional. We have a lot of variety, etc. So it's um it's just something that I look at, and I think, what can South Africa do off the field or behind the scenes, or maybe get a sports psychologist in there, or someone that can get into the minds of the players to take them to the next level. Because when you look at a team like New Zealand as well, who we need to give credit for as well, is look at the way New Zealand continuously have performed over the last 3 years or 4 years. Um, you could say even 5 years, 6 years. I mean, they consistently make it into finals in ICC events. The 2015, they knocked us out. You can look at the 2019 World Cup. They made it to the final, lost by the pairs of margins, as was said. And you look at the 2020 World Cup, they lose out to Australia, and they win the Test Championship. So no matter what the level, what the format is, they constantly getting to themselves into strong positions, into positions where they could possibly win a trophy. And for such a small nation, that is amazing that they could do that. You can see what they do. The rugby team as well. Okay, yes, they might not have been as successful in the ICC rugby events, but in World Cup events, but the ability to create team after team after team that is competing at the highest level, it's incredible that New Zealand can do that in a small country like they are. So there must be something that we can learn or take forward into our players, so that they can get the right mentality. I don't think it's only about picking players. Maybe it's about picking players that already have that mentality, that have shown the signs in pressure moments. Like a guy like Calverena that has done so in domestic cricket. That's something that you can't maybe teach, or you can't coach that. That's something that a player either has intrinsically, or you can help them get over their blockages that are stopping them from becoming that type of mentally strong. Because there are players that have become mentally strong over time.
Um, you're right, but I think at some level it's cultural. Where, and I think it's probably a good question to ask Dion Bodes. Uh, if we speak to him again. But just to answer Harshit's question right here about Faf's ICC record. Look, I think in 2015 he made 82 in that semi-final. There were other factors that resulted in them losing the game. In 2011 he made a score, but none of the other established top order batsmen played either. And in 2019 the entire team had a poor tournament. He scored 360 odd runs. Tournament is averaging 63. In the 2014 semi-final, which he took South Africa uh, to the semi-final against India, he was the top scorer. He made 58. So he's done his bit. Then ultimately it's a team game. He can't he can't carry the entire team by himself. So by no means can we say that he has a horrible record in ICC knockouts. But to answer your question, Khalid, I think at some level, cricket is an cricket is a team game played by 11 individuals. At some level, players have got to take more responsibility to to figure out how they absorb and respond to pressure. Because I can't imagine it being easy for Matthew Wade, who is probably one of the most criticized players in Australia, to move from a settled position where he's done well in the BBL as an opener to then moving down at number 6 or number 7. That cannot be easy. But at some level he's figured it out for himself. And he hasn't done much in the tournament before the semi-final. So for him to come good in the semi-final, face the tournament's best bowler in Shaheen Shah Afridi and hit him for 20 odd runs in an over is an unbelievable achievement. When you're required to score 12 runs and over. So I think that's an individual thing also. That I remember a story from 2017 when Australia had come to India. They were playing in October, and Matthew Wade was wicketkeeper. They were playing in Kolkata. It was a day and night game, so Australia were fielding first, and the hottest of conditions. And I think post the 15th over, Matthew Wade was literally puking like every second over. Like someone was coming with a bag to help him puke,
Yes, yes.
and he continued to keep for the entire innings. That is serious mental toughness, and you can't coach that. You have it, and that's I guess you can work towards that, but that is serious commitment. That it's like that, you know, uh, going over my dead body sort of attitude that I think is unbelievable. So I think at an individual level, players have got to sort of figure that out and eliminate that fear of failure. It's easier said than done.
It is. It's a lot easier said than done because every time I try to think of how South Africa can go forward, what is should be their plan. I think currently with the current bunch of players that we have, there is momentum over here that we need to build on. I hope that we don't now just erase and then start again. I hope that we add to this, like someone like Rassi, someone like Aiden, someone like the bowling unit. They have proven time and time again. David Miller now recently as well. He came to the party when he had his opportunity. Build the team around him, fill in the gaps. Quinton de Kock was completely abysmal in this World Cup, and I have to say so. And we need to give criticism where it's due. Quinton de Kock did not come to the party in any of the games. I was hoping more than anything else that he will gain momentum, and then when we really needed him, come to the fold. But he didn't. Um, he he didn't impress me in any of the games. So maybe it's time that we maybe look and find a way to either get him to perform, um, or replace him. And I know that's a very harsh way to look at it, and it may be completely. Some people will call me psycho for even thinking about that. But I feel that Quinton needs to develop his game. He's not a kid anymore. He's not young anymore. He needs to be able to take his game to the next level. He can't just have one way of playing and that's it, and then not be able to completely adapt his game to certain conditions when the conditions don't align to play the way he wants to play.
He's the senior most player in the team. He's been playing since 2013, I believe, isn't it? So you're right, absolutely, no question about it. And it's one of the reasons why I've been saying for quite a while that you know sometimes Quentin de Kock, I don't know, he needs to find a way to develop his game. Because 7 years of international cricket, you look at players like Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma. Within 7 years, they've become like all-time greats of the game. But it's hard to say that about Quinton de Kock. Remember the first time you and I met, and we talked about Quinton de Kock, and I said that he has the potential to, uh, yeah, right, Harshit. Yeah, Miller's probably played one more year than Quinton de Kock. Um, but yeah, I think Quinton de Kock. Um, I think within 7 odd years in the international arena, probably ought to have developed a lot more as a player. Um, because I think that's coming back to haunt South Africa, where the lack of adaptability is hurting the team, and it's hurting his confidence also.
Yeah. But yeah, the bubble life, all of that stuff, I would also talk about that. I mean, every single player had that. They all needed to face that. Um, Ultimately, you need to suck it up as a professional sportsman. There's certain responsibilities that you have as a sportsman. You're getting paid a lot of money to play the sport and to entertain the fans. So you need to find a way to do it. South Africa, this that I always said that I was very proud of their performance this year, and as a team unit, and how they overcame a lot of difficult instances. The way they performed against England was really something to be proud of, and kind of seemed to have knocked the wind out of England in a way, because they ended up not making it to the final. So when I look at the South African team, I think there's a nice strong core here that we can build on. And I think that's why we need to look what is the next phase and how we can build on this. Um, Also, we need to sort out a lot of things domestically. I think if South Africa can play a certain format that filters down, or a certain way that filters down right to the bottom into domestic cricket, and they change a little bit of their mindset, that they come out playing less defensively in certain games, play for the for the win continuously. Because when I listen to a guy like Corbin Bosch, who spoke to us, who played a little stint in Australia, he said the one thing about that he learned there is that they come out and they try to win every game. There's no thought of playing for the draw. If a draw happens, then it happens. You go out there, you try to win it, and if you fail, then you fail. Um, that's ultimately the case. But you try to go out there and win it. Um, so yeah, Aditya, I'm gonna go to the comments, and look at some of the comments and what has been said over here. I'm gonna try to go to the most recent ones right now, and I'll try to figure out what has happened. What you guys are talking about. Uh, Oops. Pointless looking at domestic cricket when the selectors ignores picking the best players, and that is a good point. And when you look at certain players that have been left out, I particularly, for example, think that like I've always said, there needs to be a core group of youngsters that get an opportunity. Now, they have, there's a lot of issues in South African cricket that we need to sort out. And I think you guys will probably mention it in the comment. I'm seeing something that you guys are calling for me to mention something. I think Lorenzo's question. Khalid, don't you think it's time that we make way with the quota system at international level? If we select the best players, we'll excel much, much better. Now, this is something that I've mentioned before. I think I've said that it might be time to do so, or either get rid of no, get rid of the quota system in international level, or just or lower the targets for international cricket compared to what it is domestically. I think those are things that we need to look at. Um, so there's a lot of things that we need to think of. There's a lot of things um, we need to consider when it comes to the quota system, because It's not something that I have control over when it comes to me as talking about it, because for the injustices that have happened in the past, I can understand why they try to enforce a quota system to try and get more exposure to the players of color. Because ultimately, what you want to do in a country is you want the majority of the people in your country to play the sport. In South Africa, that is not the case. The minority is the majority that are playing the sport. Um, a lot of the players of color are not getting opportunities or getting noticed or getting opportunities lower down to play the sport. And then ultimately that means that there's a backlog in the production system. And currently that's what's happening in South African cricket. There's a backlog to the production system of players of color. Now they're trying to fast quick track that and make it quicker, but it is in certain cases there are cases where good players are being left out for players that aren't as good as others. And that's not only though when it comes to players of color. There are players that are white too that are getting picked that are not good enough over other players that are white that are good enough. So it's going, but just generally our selection process has been quite hasn't been flawless, which is what we were obviously looking for. So the quota system needs to be addressed, maybe changed, maybe altered. I think that they need to be a lot more stricter, maybe domestically, and I actually think they need to be a lot more stricter at school level, giving more people opportunities at school level. And that's how we develop the next generation. South Africa currently are producing quite a lot of players of color that are knocking on the international door, and they need to be given an opportunity, and not just an opportunity when a black player or a colored player doesn't perform. If there's a white player that's not performing, then by all means, take the next best in line. So there needs to be a fair assessment of all of this, and they need to think about what's best for cricket in South Africa and what's best for the future. Because grass level is where we need to really work on. There needs to be development there to really increase the pool of players that can come through the system, so that when we get to the international stage, we can pick the best players on merit, and then it doesn't matter what color their skin is. So, unfortunately, socioeconomic struggles, poverty, a lot of those type of things, opportunity, lack of opportunities in the country is associated with race, unfortunately, because of the checkered past that we have in this country. And it's unfortunate that that is the case. Um, so we need to find a way on how to improve that and how to fix that, and do it in a way that is easily transitional into the next phases of our cricketing spheres. What's your thoughts on that, Aditya?
Definitely. Look, in an ideal world, you want all professional cricketers to be able to develop at the same rate and uh, and have that sense of merit, I suppose, quote unquote. Uh, but look, it's difficult, right? We're all products of our environment. South Africa is trying to do the best it can with with the resources that it has, and ultimately, I think, as you said, given the checkered past of the country, um, it's the opportunity to excel that's probably the most uh, prized entity here. And at the moment, there doesn't seem to be a better solution, because it's not like suddenly go to all parts of the country and just have just pour in money and create that infrastructure overnight. It takes time. So it's difficult. It's difficult at the moment, but hopefully, as I think Michael Holding said at the SJN, you don't want to use the word quota, because that just puts more pressure on a black or colored player. So yeah, it's difficult. It's a difficult question to answer, but hopefully there will be a time when everyone who wants to play cricket will have the opportunity and the resources to be able to do so.
Hmm. So yeah, I think we've covered quite a lot. I think we've covered basically everything that we needed to cover. It's a pity that none of the guys that we sent out the link to could join us as well, because I would really like to hear what they had to say. I know a lot of the guys are also busy. I know. So hopefully that over the next few streams that we do over the next few days, that we'll get a nice panel on here to come chat with us. It's been a hectic month and a couple of months now currently with all the cricket that is happening.
Just one more thing that I'd like to revisit, given that we discussed it last week on the podcast, which is the toss. I think it's something that we need to talk about, and certainly the ICC needs to think about, because it's there's no doubt
Significant
that
advantage.
the toss has offered undue advantage, right? Winning the toss has meant that normally you win the game. You look at Australia, world champions in T20s now. They won 6 out of 7 tosses, they won 6 out of 7 games. The one toss they lost, they got hammered. I think that tells you a story. Because it has been a significant advantage. And I don't know what the solution to that is. I'm not suggesting that we eliminate the toss altogether, but there has to be some way of creating a little more balance between two teams. Because the toss is not in your control, and it's certainly not a determinant of skill. So you know
It's
Australia
interesting.
lost one game in the tournament. Like,
Mm,
Australia lost a game in the tournament.
to England.
New Zealand,
The
yeah,
loss.
exactly. New Zealand lost one game in the tournament. Okay, but they're both in the finals. Um, Pakistan, they were unbeaten till the semi-finals. They lost the toss. They lost the game. So there has to be a better way of doing this, right? Because you
Yeah.
feel like if South Africa had won the toss against Australia, batted second, who knows what the outcome would have been? Although in day games that wasn't such a massive factor, but it was in night games, and uh, I think it's something that the ICC needs to think about, because the same problem had come up during the 2016 World Cup as well,
Yeah.
T20 World Cup in India. Where games began at 8 o'clock at night, and the team that batted first 7:30 at night, and the team that batted first had significantly different conditions to the team that batted second. So there should be a better way to do this.
Yeah. But I mean, it's crazy because how do you determine then who bats first and bats second? I mean,
Yeah, I totally agree.
without the luck of a draw, like I mean, it's one of those things that you it's just the luck of the draw, I guess, with the toss. But it's I can't.
Because
Does it?
Aaron Finch said so himself. Aaron Finch said so himself. He said he got really lucky
Yeah,
that
of
he
course.
lost, that
But
he
we know
won
that. Yeah.
six, that he won 6 out of 7 tosses. That's definitely not to say that. Uh, that's not to say that Australia don't deserve to win or they didn't play good enough cricket. Of course they did, and we're not taking that away from them in any way. But we are suggesting that is this really the best way to sort of determine the outcome of a game, because it really is affecting the outcome of a game. If India
Yeah.
had won the toss against Pakistan and New Zealand and batted second, it could have been a different story. You never know. So
But that's why I say, like, why I love cricket so much is because there's so many factors involved when
yeah,
it comes to playing the sport. You need to read the conditions. You need to, if you lose a toss, you need to change your mindset, change your strategy to see if you can still win it. I mean, South Africa lost the toss to England and still won the game. So it's one of those things where it's obviously these. It does give you an advantage, and that's unfortunate. It does give you an advantage, but there must be some sort of way to change that, um,
I think it has
or
to
to fix
be
it. I don't know how to make it fair.
changing the start date. I mean, the start time of a game. But again, I don't know if that works with broadcasters, because the broadcasters have a significant role in the scheduling of the tournament.
Yeah,
So,
true.
for
Yeah,
example,
and of
like
course, when people are going to
the
watch it
India
all around the world.
exactly. So the India Pakistan and the India New Zealand game were scheduled one week apart. Okay, because India Pakistan is going to get the tournament buzzing. I think there are a billion people watching on that day, and then India New Zealand was right as Diwali happened. So Diwali, generally people stick around at
Mm,
home, spend time with their families. So that became a massive affair as well. So I
yeah,
think I don't know. I think that's brutal, right? Because Normally, you look at the structure of the other teams. It's like you play one strong team, play a couple of the minnows, and then you have another big game at the end. So yeah, I don't know. There has to be some way, I suppose.
Yeah, some way. Has to be. Find a way. Guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. And we'll be obviously covering a lot of the 4-day competition that's going to start again this week. I know there was one game in the Division Two where Jason Lima scored 300. I need to get Jason on the show again. He's a friend of the channel as well, so I'll try to interview him as well when I get an opportunity. The guys have been it's been difficult to get them on shows and stuff. I have tried. I've gotten a couple of guys on, but with the travel schedules and stuff, it's very difficult to get them onto shows, etc. But I will try my best to do so. We will have 4-day games starting on Thursday again. Guys, thanks a lot for tuning into the show. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, and subscribe. Click the notification bell for all future videos. We will have some fan call-ins maybe in the week as well. I would like to hear your thoughts. So prepare for those, guys. Get involved. Tell all your friends that you know would want to tune in to come to that. Also subscribe to the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly, because we're going tomorrow is the next issue will be coming out. So go ahead and do that too. And when it comes to this channel, don't forget to obviously just get involved in the comment section after the show is finished. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow with another daily show. We'll be back at normal time again, guys. Sorry for the mix up. Or not the mix up, for the reschedule, but we'll be back at normal time again tomorrow. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you guys very soon. Take care.